During our Thanksgiving dinner, my granddaughter quietly pushed a folded note toward me. The message was urgent. "Grandma, act like you're sick and leave right now." My heart raced with confusion. I whispered, "Why? What's happening?" She leaned closer and murmured, "Please, just trust me." And so, unsure but believing in her, I followed her instructions, having no idea what would happen just minutes later. The dining room was warm with chatter and clinking dishes. Everyone was busy enjoying the Thanksgiving meal. The smell of roasted turkey filled the air. I sat quietly at the far end of the table. My granddaughter sat 2 seats to my left. She looked unusually tense that evening. Her eyes kept darting around the room nervously. I noticed her hands trembling a little. Before I could ask, she slipped a note toward me. I frowned, surprised by the secrecy. I unfolded the small piece of paper slowly. The handwriting was hurried and shaky. The message shocked me instantly. "Grandma, pretend you're sick and leave right now." My heart jumped in confusion. Why would she ask something like that? I leaned toward her and whispered, "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" She looked terrified to answer. "Please, just trust me," she whispered. Her eyes were pleading desperately. I felt a sudden worry in my chest. Something was definitely wrong. I glanced around the table. Everyone else seemed unaware. They were laughing and eating loudly. No one noticed the tension between us. I turned back to my granddaughter. "Is someone in danger?" I murmured softly. She shook her head just slightly. "Not yet," she whispered. That word, "yet," made my stomach twist. I tried to keep calm. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll do it." She sighed with relief. "Thank you," she mouthed. I took a deep breath to steady myself. My hand reached for my water glass. It shook slightly as I lifted it. I stood up slowly from my chair. Everyone looked at me curiously. "Are you all right, Mom?" someone asked. I pressed my hand to my forehead dramatically. "I don't feel well," I said weakly. The room went silent for a moment. Forks paused midair. My granddaughter watched anxiously. She nodded subtly, urging me on. "I think I need to lie down," I said. "Maybe some fresh air." A couple of family members stood up to help. I waved them off gently. No, I'll be fine. Just need a moment." I walked toward the hallway slowly. My granddaughter quietly followed behind me. Once we were out of sight, she rushed to my side. "Grandma, thank you for trusting me," she whispered quickly. "Sweetheart, what's happening?" I asked. She bit her lip nervously. "I saw something," she said softly. Her voice trembled with fear. "Saw what?" I pressed. She looked over her shoulder, making sure no one was listening. "Uncle Mark," she began. My eyebrows lifted in concern. "What about him?" "He was in the kitchen earlier," she explained. She swallowed hard. "He poured something into your drink." A cold chill shot down my spine. My breath caught in my throat. "Are you sure?" I whispered. Tears formed in her eyes. "Yes." I saw it with my own eyes. Shock washed over me like a wave. My hands instinctively touched my stomach. She quickly held my arm. "Don't worry," she said, voice shaky. "You didn't drink it." I realized with horror that I had almost taken a sip earlier. "Why would he do such a thing?" I murmured. She shook her head helplessly. "I don't know." But his face looked angry. My mind raced with possibilities. None of them made sense. I tried to steady my breathing. "Thank you for warning me," I whispered. She nodded quickly. "I couldn't let anything happen to you." The hallway felt colder than usual. Shadows from the dining room flickered against the wall. I leaned against the railing to catch my breath. My granddaughter stayed right beside me. "We need to leave," she urged softly. Before he notices, I looked toward the kitchen entrance. A dark figure moved inside. My granddaughter grabbed my hand tightly. "Grandma, please, let's go." Her voice was trembling. I nodded slowly, fear tightening my chest. She led me toward the side door quietly. The sound of laughter from the dining room continued. No one suspected anything. My footsteps felt heavy on the wooden floor. The cold air rushed in as the door opened. My granddaughter pulled me outside quickly. "We need to get to the car," she whispered. The night felt strangely silent. Only the wind rustled the fallen leaves. We hurried across the driveway together. My heart pounded loudly in my ears. I kept glancing back toward the house. "Do you think he followed us?" I asked. "I don't think so," she replied, but her voice wasn't confident. We reached the car at last. She dug through her small purse. Her fingers trembled as she searched for the keys. "Hurry, sweetheart," I whispered anxiously. "I'm trying," she said, breath shaky. She finally pulled out the keys. The car beeped softly as it unlocked. I quickly opened the passenger door. The interior felt safe compared to the house. My granddaughter rushed to the driver's side. She slid in and started the ignition. The engine hummed quietly. She gripped the steering wheel tightly. "Where should we go?" she asked, voice small. "Anywhere but here," I replied. She nodded and backed the car out. The tires crunched softly over the gravel. I looked through the window at the glowing house. A dark silhouette stood near the kitchen curtains. My breath hitched in fear. "He's looking for us," I whispered. My granddaughter pressed the gas pedal harder. "We'll be far before he realizes," she said. We reached the end of the driveway. The road ahead looked long and dim. Streetlights flickered softly in the distance. My granddaughter kept glancing nervously at the mirrors. "Do you think he knew I saw him?" she asked. "Maybe," I answered quietly. We drove in silence for a few moments. The wind whistled lightly against the windows. My hands were still shaking. My granddaughter noticed and reached over. She held my hand gently. "You're safe now," she whispered. I squeezed her hand back. "Thanks to you," I said softly. She looked straight ahead, eyes determined. "I would never let anyone hurt you." Her voice was filled with courage. The car's headlights illuminated the empty road. My mind replayed everything that happened. The note, the warning, the drink, the shadow in the kitchen. It all felt unreal. "Why today of all days?" I whispered. "I wish I knew," she replied. We continued driving further away. The house disappeared behind the trees. My heartbeat slowly began to settle, but the fear still lingered. "We need to tell someone," I said quietly. My granddaughter nodded. "I think we should go to Aunt Lisa's." It sounded like a safe option. She turned the car toward the familiar route. "Do you think Uncle Mark planned this?" she asked hesitantly. "I don't want to believe it," I replied, "but it certainly seems that way." The car drove smoothly around a bend. Neighborhood lights grew faint behind us. My granddaughter sighed heavily. "I'm scared, Grandma." I reached over and stroked her arm gently. "You did the right thing," I assured her. "You were brave." She blinked away rising tears. "I just want you safe," she whispered. "I know," I said with warmth. The road stretched calmly ahead. The night was quiet, except for the car's steady engine. But my thoughts were anything but calm. Why had Mark done that? What was he planning? And what would have happened if my granddaughter hadn't seen it? A chill ran through my body. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "you may have just saved my life." She looked at me with tearful eyes. "I'd do it again, Grandma." I smiled faintly despite the fear. The worst might not be over. But with her beside me, I felt stronger than ever. I slowly stepped back into the dining room, unsure of what I was about to face. Everyone had stopped eating, and the entire table had gone quiet. My granddaughter stood beside me, gripping my hand tightly. Her little voice trembled as she finally spoke up. Grandma wasn't feeling safe here, and no one listened. Eyes widened around the room, confusion spreading from person to person. My son stood up first. anger rising in his face. What does that mean? What happened? He demanded. My granddaughter took a deep breath and pointed across the table. She heard you arguing last night. She thought you were going to fight again. Silence hit the room like a heavy blanket. My daughter-in-law lowered her head in embarrassment. My son collapsed back into his chair, rubbing his forehead. Mom, we're sorry you had to hear that, he whispered. I slowly sat down, still shaken, but trying to remain calm. I didn't want to say anything, I admitted softly. But she saw the look on my face and tried to protect me. Tears gathered in my granddaughter's eyes as she hugged me tightly. I just didn't want anything bad to happen to you, Grandma. Everyone's emotions shifted, anger melting into guilt. My son reached across the table and took my hand. We'll fix this. No more fighting. Not in front of her. Not ever again. My daughter-in-law nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. We didn't realize how much it scared her. I looked at my granddaughter and smiled gently. You were very brave today. Thank you for caring about me. She rested her head on my shoulder, relieved. The tension in the room slowly faded as everyone reflected on what happened. Dinner continued, but this time with quiet gratitude and understanding. And I knew, without a doubt, that my granddaughter's love had saved the night.